right, guys, give this just a second in case my microphone is still messing up. Having issues with my iPhone off and on for the last, I guess, few months. The first 5-10 seconds of audio recording on video, it's quiet, totally quiet. And then it gets louder, it catches up. And then after the latest update, let's say about a month ago, having issues. I can't use my phone as a hotspot anymore. Which is normally not a big deal, but I like to listen to Spotify at the gym, and I'll get on a nice little roll of some 80s music or something cheesy, and I just want to stick with the Spotify radio. And then a few weeks ago, our internet went out, and I was in the middle of work, and normally if the internet goes out, I can reroute my computer, my laptop, through my phone and work at least a few hours that way. And I can't figure that out. So if you have any honest solutions on either one of those, and I've ran through every solution that I know that I've seen on Google, and none of them have helped. But anyway, guys, Q&A, it is actually 2:41 in the AM, one of the first times of my day where it's been quiet, and I've had a chance to wrap up work a little bit early for the week. Planning out, I've already got my plan wrote out for tomorrow's training for me over here. And I'll do 3/4 of that anyway. I always write out a little bit extra just in case, something I don't feel like doing something. I've got something else I can throw in there. Always have lots and lots of options, and I program most of my clients that way too. I'll give them way too much, and then they usually, after a few weeks, like, oh man, I'm really tired, or that's a lot, I'm run down. And I go back, because you get the rare, I've got a few clients that they'll go through everything, and they're just like, oh, I nailed it. There was, I love doing all this stuff, man. It's amazing. Or I left off 20%, I came back and did it tomorrow as accessory. But anyway, it is February the 4th here, technically. I put this up on February the 3rd, Thursday. Question and answer. I'm going to trying to put up one of these every week on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. Maybe I can shoot this Wednesday when I'm at the gym and either post it while I'm training at the gym or as soon as I get home on Wednesdays. So if you guys have any questions, it'll give me just a chance on Thursday nights to sit down before going to bed and just shoot this with my phone. I don't really like doing stuff with my phone. I like doing everything professional with lights. So I'm here at home. This is where I'm really working in the kitchen. I'm on the kitchen table right here with my laptop, and still got the Christmas tree lights up back there somewhere. We celebrate. When you have a special needs child, you celebrate all year round. You do whatever it takes, and as long as he enjoys it, and he is thrilled still with all the lights that we have in the house. And technically today, Friday the 4th, is his birthday, turned 6. So he got to celebrate at occupational therapy and speech therapy today. And then, you never know exactly how much he's understanding. But on the way to bed, he was arguing all the way to bed, and my wife was telling him, oh, tomorrow's happy birthday, and he was arguing and yelling all the way to bed. And he's carrying a stack of books to bed, at least 10 books to bed every night. And he gets to bed, and I go to the bathroom and come out. When I come out, he's holding the book, the Dr. Seuss, the Happy Birthday book. And I'm thinking, that little snot understands, it's his birthday. But anyway, I can talk for. This is why I don't do short videos. This is why I don't do the little Instagram videos, because I don't like to talk for short periods of time. I like to go on and explain stuff. So I'm looking at my computer here. I'm not being rude. I put this video up and I shared it on obviously YouTube and Twitter, and then a couple people sent me messages over on Instagram. They couldn't figure out how to use Twitter or YouTube. So I'm going to try to answer as many of these as I can. And the ones that I can't get to, you guys are just going to have to ask them a little bit differently again next week, because I've read through them all once. I didn't understand everything completely. So Garage Gym Gorilla, how would you schedule loading and carrying training to an upper-lower split where you squat on one lower day and deadlift on the other lower day? How would you program carrying events if the weight carried in competition is very heavy in relation to one's strength? with everything, your first couple of weeks of preparing for a specific event, for a contest, needs to be technical and skill work. Does not need to be heavy work. You rarely ever, in training and preparation, need to be using contest weight. Even if that contest weight is light, you really don't need to be using contest weight. You need to save your body, work on skill, work on technique. So if you are way out from the competition, you can continue to focus on the squats and the deadlifts. But you have to remember that you're not getting ready for a squat or a deadlift competition. You're getting ready for a strongman competition. And if this, carry and load is an event that's really worrying you, then you need to be focused on that. Not focused on the squats and deadlifts. This is your sport. If you were a football player, you wouldn't be focused on squats and deadlifts nearly as much as you would be whatever your weakest skill is that you're worried about for game day. If you were a basketball player and you had to face Michael Jordan on Saturday, you wouldn't be in the gym doing squats and deadlifts. You'd be sitting around studying tape trying to figure out how to get better at defending Michael Jordan. I hope that makes sense. So how would I do it? I've got an Atlas Stone / sandbag loading program that I use with a lot of my clients, and it depends on, where we start, depends on how many weeks out they are, what stones and what sandbags they have, how well they recover, and what their weakness is. But I would focus just on, the loading portion of that. I would set up, lots of 5 sets of 5, lots of 3 sets of 3, lots of, as far as you can go, loads. It doesn't have to be 10 sets, that for sure. It doesn't have to be a full session of nothing but loads. But you've got to get better at that. Man, I don't know how else to say it. But, you've definitely got to work on just the loading portion of that. As far as the carrying, you've got to figure out, if you're just not strong enough, then you're just going to have to get better at the fastest rate that you can. And testing, so training at a very high percent, training at 90-95% of contest weight is not going to get you better. It's going to get you beat up. So if you were, trying to get better at the bench, the squat, the deadlift, you wouldn't train at 90% of the world record. You would train at 80, 85%, 75%, 80, 90, 95% of your record. So you need to base things off of what your best is. You need to get the reps, you need to get the sets in, and that needs to take a priority. So, along with a lot of these questions, the answer is going to be, it depends. It depends on what your strength is. It depends on what your weakness is. So I can't tell you all that without knowing more information about you. So what I will say is sit down and look and be honest with yourself and base this off of what you can do, not what the contest expects of you. You just get better at what you can be and be honest with yourself at exactly what that is. And ask me this question again next week if you need me to explain more. Matt Shelvach, I know this guy. Do I have any favorite competition stories? Most I've ever eaten in one sitting. How did elia get so doggone big? Training goals for 2022. These are good. It's almost like you know me. Any favorite competition stories? Man, I've had a couple of contests that were really, really good for me when I was in the States. When I moved to Europe, there was about 1.5 to 2 years where I either flew somewhere and trained or competed either every month or every 2 months. So I would go and stay somewhere for 2 or 3 weeks and train and compete. And just those stories just fly in and out of your head. Probably my last show in Europe, because I was competing regularly. I got extremely sick, and then I couldn't compete for 3 years. So my first competition back, nobody knew who I was, and then except a couple of my training partners that I trained with a little bit through Hungary and Slovakia and some other places, Serbia and places like that. I came in and shocked a lot of people. I think the only person that beat me was Irvin Katona. But yeah, there are a lot of things, like getting to the hotel room and there being, two beds, each for 300 plus pound guys, and each bed is like 2.5 feet wide. The entire room was 6 feet wide. Not an exaggeration. Being at contests like that and shocking everybody. Man, I've been to so many contests where I got booed showing up because they announced I was from the United States. And then by the end of the contest, they would be cheering for me, just because of, the effort and everything that you give. I'd say every contest kind of has its own special story. I've been to several contests where, the after party is a complete and total blur. I remember a contest in the States, competing at a contest in the States, and I took second overall out of all the heavyweights. And going back, I remember doing the tire flip, and I'd worked so hard on the tire flip to one motion the tire, to just take it from the background all the way over. I trained it so hard that it was so effortless, just so effortless. And I get to the end, and there's Jill Mills, who's arguably, the greatest strong woman ever. She would be the GOAT, greatest of all time. And to be the greatest of all time, it doesn't mean that you can beat everybody else ever. It means that you were so good among your era that you changed the sport forever. And I think that is her. She's sitting at the end. She's competing as well. And she's sitting on a truck bed at the end of, the tire flip run. And, I finish and just kind of walk over. She's like, "Oh, that was absolutely awesome. But why did you wait 3 minutes in between flips?" And I'm thinking, what? And then going back and watching the video now, I was literally one motioning from the ground, completely flipping, and bam, hits the ground. And then just kind of step, walk, grab, and go again, which took valuable seconds off my total time. And then going back and looking, had I flipped, it was like 10 flips, had I gone a second and a half faster, I would have easily won overall. I ended up taking second place overall by like a half point, something like that. Most I've ever eaten in one sitting. I don't really eat that much at once, but I eat nonstop. So, I've dealt with a lot of sickness, health. I'm always nauseous. And about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, I started a new medication, and it pretty much kills my nausea and can make me hungry all the time. And I can eat nonstop. And I don't mean like, nonstop. I can eat nonstop, man. I literally mean I can eat a full meal every hour. A full steak, pork chop, vegetables, rice, potatoes, sweets, cheese. I can down 2 or 3 of these every hour, every single hour. Even now, I will go to bed every night. My cooler's over there. I take a cooler to bed with me every night. I have for years. And I will take 2 of these with, cranberry juice, coconut water, branched amino acids, electrolytes, usually some carb powder, some Pepto Pro if I can find it. I will go through 2 of those, and I will take like 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, 2 protein carb bars, and 2 bananas to bed. And I won't eat all of that, but I will drink most all the drinks, and I will eat at least 2 of the 6 things that I take to bed. And the rest of it becomes snacks for the next day. That's every night. Wake up and start eating as I'm fixing lunch, and I will literally get the shakes from low blood sugar. And eating 4 pounds of meat a day that's pretty easy. That's really, really easy. And for my carbs to hit or break 1,000 is really easy. So for me to eat a couple of pounds of meat at one sitting, I can definitely do it. It's not an issue. But I do my best to not do that. And the medicine, if I don't take the medicine for 5 or 6 days, my appetite goes back to normal, but the nausea comes back as well. So no crazy ever eaten in one setting type things. It's just people comment all the time, man, Clinton, why is Clinton not eating? He doesn't eat a lot. And then, I'll eat a normal portion, and then an hour later, an hour and a half later, I'm eating again, and then I'm eating again, and then I'm eating again. So, how did Elia get so doggone big? You have to remember that he's 6'6". He's a big guy. My arms are longer than his, from shoulder to fingertips, but he is longer than I am from shoulder to shoulder. And I'm ridiculously wingspanned. His dad's taller than he is. So just hanging around, when I met him, he was 120 kilograms, so 265 pounds. And then I think at his biggest, he's been around 450. So it's like 205 kilograms. And now he's at the 180, 185. So it's around 400 pounds. And I think he's going to stick somewhere around there and just continue to get leaner. But he's a large guy. I mean, he's just got legs that are, he was born, the first time I ever saw him, I could see that he was a big guy. I could see that he was way underdeveloped. And if he just kept, and he was super athletic. He was a pro paintballer. I didn't even know there was such thing as a pro paintballer, but he was a pro paintballer. He's done martial arts. He's done lots of athletic sports, and you can see it when he moves, that he is just super athletic and moves very, very well. So, and being around me, I think, him going from 265 to 450 was, a lot of influence of, hey, we're just going to eat. We're going to eat big and nonstop. And then from him going from 450 down to 400, it's eating a little more intelligently. Training goals for 2022. Man. I need to get healthy. That's it. The biggest thing with me is, I'm going hopefully Monday to see a doctor about my legs. This, I'm having serious issues. I can't move my toes at all on my right foot. My left foot, I can wiggle them straight like that, but I can't curl them at all. My right foot is completely dropped. So when I jump, it falls down. If you've seen the videos of me jumping rope, the rope always catches on my right foot. So when I jump up in the air, the rope will tag on my foot because I can't pull that foot up. Makes log press difficult. Makes hamstring tears very, very common. The toes are very important with the activation of the hamstrings. And then if I ever do get any kind of grab with those toes on the floor, that hamstring cramps up. And that's just me standing around washing dishes. And almost any kind of forced movement of my ankle sends me into cramps. So if I get cramps while lifting, that equals muscle tear. So I need to get healthy. That's the big thing. If I get a little bit healthier, and not lose the ability to walk, that's kind of important. Then I can do a lot of things. I still want to load that 330 stone. I do think that as soon as I get healthy enough to load the 330, that the 330 is it's definitely not an issue. I can pick it up like a beach ball. I just can't get my feet to work and get my body to work to load it. So as soon as that goes, then, it's going to be the 330, the 345, the 365, and then whatever, 170 kilograms, they're all going to go. So none of those hold me back. I want to pull 600 pretty soon. There's, not much doubt in my mind I could pull 660 in my suit. My training partner's seen me, and he fully believes that, the right day I could do it now. But could I do it safely? No. There's a really good chance I'm going to tear something. So I made a goal. I wanted to add an inch on my arms the last quarter of 2021, and I did that. My legs are bigger than they have ever been in my entire life. My belly's pretty big. You can see that from all the videos. So I hate to say that I wanted to bench 500 last year, and I did that. So let's just say I would like to have a 20-inch arm. That's going to be a lot of tricep health, and that's going to be a big indicator of bicep health as well, more than anything else. I did a 220 log last week, which is that's small potato women's weight. But for me, that was big. That's a big sign of health. I want to qualify for a contest. I'm doing it. I've done a lot of contests online already this year. Just do the events and send the video in, and I want to continue doing that. So I want to be active as possible, and I've got to get healthy. So I'll put some thought into that. Maybe I'll have some more sometime soon. I'm sure that as soon as I know them, I will tell you. Squat curl deadlifts is my funniest / best American in Cyprus stories. Man, I don't get along with most Americans here because they complain all the time, and I just try to remind them that, your passport will take you both ways, buddy. If you don't like it here, you can always go back. You're here by choice. I did get arrested a few years ago. How many years? I've been living here at this house for 10, 11 years. So I was living here at the time. I got arrested for being a possible CIA agent. Had to go to the police station and get all that cleared up. But there was a full arrest warrant made out for me because I was driving around in my car, my little BMW Z3, top down, sleeping 5-year-old in the child seat next to me. And I love photography. And I've got my camera with me, and I'm driving around the little rural neighborhoods here, taking photos of mandarin trees and lemons and tractors and things like that. And a woman reported me for being a CIA spy, which we have a CIA station here. We have spies. We have a lot of spies here. We're the most spied on country in the world. But that was an interesting thing when they called me down to the police station, and then of course when I walked in and I was 10 years younger and much bigger, with a pretty big commanding presence, I got the police station manager's attention really quick, especially when he thought that I might actually be CIA, but might be. But they let me go. Obviously, they let me go. Favorite training session and favorite lift I've ever done. It's my favorite training session during the week's always, right now I love Atlas stones. I would say that I hate doing them outside when it's cold, but the truth is I probably love that. I probably love doing stones. I'm training right now Atlas stones from 10 at night till midnight outside, and it's, it's winter. It's February. So it's just above freezing. I love the strongman sessions just because it's the day that I feel like I'm playing my sport. I'm dirty, I'm sweaty, I'm smelly. I'm outside, my shoes get filthy, my clothes get filthy, the way it smells, you feel like you're actually in the game, but there's not I'll say that I really hate to press. I'll say that I hate the bench press, but I love bench pressing in gear. I love figuring stuff out and working on it. Overhead presses really suck because it's been very painful for the last couple of years because of my back. But it's, my back's feeling better and the press is getting more fun. So yeah, I don't know. I really love everything. And I love training more than I do, competing or anything else. I love the training side of that. The favorite lift I've ever done, I've done some big lifts. I don't know how many dozens of 800 plus pound deadlifts I've done in my life. And those are really big. Even as bad as my log press is now, I've done 341, and I don't know how many 352s I've had it near lockout. Favorite lift, I've loaded a 500 pound or 230 kilogram Atlas stone, but my favorite lift that I've ever done. I finished the medley at my last official strongman games. It was after they blew the whistle. They blew the whistle, it was over, I wasn't done. So I finished. I think at that point I realized that I was really sick. I knew I was sick, and that was possibly going to be my last contest because I knew how bad I was feeling and how bad I'd been feeling for a long time. So I was going to go out on a win. And that's exactly why I did it. So I finished that. That's probably one of the highlights of the last several years. My favorite exercise and the one that I hate the most, you're guessing it's a bicep exercise. I do hate training biceps. I really hate training biceps. Biceps and triceps. I hate training muscles. I really hate training muscle groups. And then I'll get in kind of a groove like I am right now doing what I call the triple 10. So it's 10 seconds work, 10 seconds rest, 10 rounds. And then I alter that to 12s and 15s and 20s. And then I start playing with the rest periods and work periods depending on, how sore I can get. And that makes it a lot more exciting. My favorite exercise, I love the deadlift. I love the box squat. I love to do them both in gear. I think it changes everything. It challenges everything. It puts a new twist on everything. The pressure is crazy. You have to be fast when it wants you to be slow. You have to be slow when it wants you to be fast. It's like driving a car that's faster than you're capable of driving, and then somehow you find a way to make it all work. Least favorite, I hate the Conan's wheel. I'm always laughing that I hate Conan's wheel, calf raises. I hate Husafell stone, just because it's been Husafell stone. Anything out in front of me right now, you're putting pressure on your feet, and every time I walk, again, my heel doesn't want to touch the ground. My toes want to dig in the ground, and my toes dig in the ground. It sends me straight into a hamstring cramp. And so even the empty Husafell stone is extremely painful for me. I love Atlas stones. I love Atlas stones, but I hate the circus dumbbell. I tore both her rotator cuffs when I was really young, like 16, 17. So getting the dumbbell back in that position and I did no rehab. We didn't have foam rollers. I mean, I've been living in Cyprus 10 years before the invention of a foam roller, much less going to physical therapy or physiotherapy for strongman or for powerlifting. There's a lot of stuff that on my body that just was never fixed when I wish it would have been. Chosen 2, what's up, man? Please do this every week. I'll do my absolute best. What's the greatest percent of strength discrepancy that would worry you that is more than just a bad workout? And how best to reset your body to get back to where you were? Merci beaucoup to you too. See, I speak a little bit of that French stuff. But, I think you need to always stay within reaching distances, and that's usually 90%. But I think, having a bad day and having a really, really bad day and only being able to hit 83 to 85% is still acceptable. I know with most of my clients, and probably with you as well, we'll run a bench press cycle getting ready for a meet. Many weeks out, we will hit, quite often, we'll do the normal bench, whatever the progression is, up to like 85%. And then we'll take something like 90% off a 2 board, 90% off a 3 board, 90% off a 4 board, and then 90% or opener off a 1 board. And being able to hit that off a 1 board at that point in the training session is huge. That doesn't mean you have to get it. Even, a lot of people will miss it because that's a whole lot of work. And to nail your opener or 90% at that point in a training session is really, really hard. But usually somewhere around 83 to 85%, you should be able to always hit on a horrible day, on an absolute horrible, no sleep kind of day. But 90% is generally the number, even with deadlifts, because I think deadlifts go up and down pretty wild. And I know that you are an amazing squatter. So if anything goes wrong, I think the squat can, if you are an extreme, because you're on the edge, you're not one of those, and I don't want to say you have freaky genetics, because so much of your genetics are right here, not God's gifts in your body, but God's gifts in your head. I mean, just like the worst compliment you can give a photographer, say, "Oh man, that's an amazing camera," because the most important part of that camera is the few inches behind that lens. That's the person's head, and I think that's where your gift is. So you are an extremely high-skilled lifter, and the more skilled you are, the more that the wind, the turn of the breeze can affect your performance. So that's kind of where I am with most of that. Kind of where I am. How to best to reset my body to get back to where I was. You know this as well as anyone. Go back and figure out what you did to get you to where you were. And don't go back a month. Go back 6 months. Because what you've done in prep to peak. Yeah, don't look at what you did to peak. Look at what you did to prepare to peak. Go back months and months and months before you began your peaking phase. And that's where you need to begin. You don't have to run an entire, 4-month block of prepare to peak. But if you can see the general concepts of, hey, I did some volume work, I did some 10s, I did some 8s, I did a lot of chains, I squatted twice a week. I did a lot of chains, but where the chains were only a total of 80% at the top with all the weight. Worked on speed. Did you ever work on those glute ham raises? And remember what your intensity level was. And remember that just because you're playing catch up doesn't mean you have to work extra hard. You got to be extra smart. So go back and redo that at about 90% intensity. Make sure that your body can recover from it. Don't work extra hard, work extra smart, extra recovery, and play the long game. If you have any questions, email me, man. Email me. Michael asked, what are my favorite deadlift accessories, effective glute exercises, and dating advice for young men? My favorite deadlift accessories have always been glute ham raises. When my deadlift was at its biggest, I would do glute ham raises 4 times a week, and most of the time I would use an extra heavy band, or I would hold plates. Holding plates I found to be a lot more dangerous than using the bands. I did pop a hamstring holding a couple of 20-kilo plates and doing glute ham raises once. I did box squats was my biggest builder for my deadlift. Box squats with a ton of bands and chains built my deadlift like crazy. There are a lot of people that will pop a hamstring doing box squats because they don't think that squat is going to be so hamstring intensive. And then you add the bands, which are forcing those hamstrings down, and you're exploding up off that box with those hamstrings. It can be a high risk of injury if you're not used to it. But the glute ham raise, the good mornings, even when I was, because I squatted 957, no knee wraps and straps down, and with bands and chains, something like 1155 that I did. That was at my absolute best. I would only use, I've done good mornings with 705 pounds, belt only. But most of my training was done at 3 plates, 3.5 plates for 3 to 5 sets of 3 to 5, just getting some work in. Dimmel deadlifts, the way that I do them, go to my channel and search Clint Darden Dimmel deadlifts. That's an app because that focuses on strength as well as technique. That would be the one thing I would tell you, because you're going to focus on strength and technique. It depends on what you are weak at. Effective glute exercises. Now, I've got some issues going on with my glutes right now, that they're not firing as they should. Again, back, foot, everything else. So I've been working on doing the booty blasters. I keep calling them booty blasters. Glute bridges. But I have to do the glute bridges with my toes pointed out in order to get my glutes to work at all. And it's almost more of a hip socket exercise for me. So the most effective glute exercise is going to be the one where you can feel your glutes. Box squats is always going to do them. The jury is still out on that one, especially with me, because my body is not functioning properly. And I rarely find that to be an issue with most of my clients anyway. Dating advice for young men, man, I'd always be honest. Always be honest. My little brother was a player. He would just go to bars and just ask them, hey, you want to go back to my place? Hey, you want to go to my place? Hey, you want to go to my place? And he played the number game. Because he said that if you asked 20, actually his number was 10. If you asked 10 women, one of them was going to say yes. His number was actually 8. If he asked 8 women, one of them was going to say yes. And that's the polar opposite of me. And it's the opposite of him now. He is not like it. That was him early college. And if you knew my little brother, you're laughing right now because that was absolutely him. But just be honest, because in the end, be honest with yourself and be honest with the other person. Be 100% who you are at all times. You know, if you're a lifter, be a lifter. You know, if you are eventually going to end up with that person, they're going to have to respect you for absolutely who you are. And, you know, when I met my wife, we dated, you know, I would go over and stay at her place every night of the week except Saturday night because I trained strongman events on Sunday. Sunday was wake up, eat, and start training. All the other nights I trained at night, you know, in my garage. And she thought that I had another girlfriend, you know, who would not stay there because they're going to train the next day. And then I remember one Sunday, it was snow and ice, and her and her best friend, who's now the godfather to my son, he was the best man at my wedding, drove out to my house, and they sat in their car and watched me train because I guess they thought that I was cheating or doing something crazy. Yeah, and they watched me out in my driveway actually training. This was obviously before Instagram, and this was before YouTube, so you couldn't just Google search me and find videos of me training on a Sunday. But, you know, that's probably the big reason why now, you know, we've been together almost 20 years. She still doesn't let me go train. She encourages me to go train. And every single training session, I'm always late to get home. And I'll send a message, and it's always, okay, baby, whatever you need. Because she knows that this is my thing. And I'm 44, and I've been doing this for a long time. And you don't do it for this long of a time unless it's really, really important to you. That's the best advice I've got if you're a lifter and you're a young man and you're dating. Explorer 213, what's up, man? How far apart are my toes for box squats? I have no idea. I know that my squat rack is wider than a normal squat rack by about 3 to 4 inches. So my toes on a standard bar are collar to collar. So you got the big wide stop collar. You get the parts you hold, and then you get the big collar out there. My toes are at the edge of that collar. But I also wear like a size 16 or a 50.5 in European shoe. So my toes go out a long freaking way. I will say, I read through this a minute ago, and I want to say that this is going to change because sometimes it's closer and sometimes it's wider. The more vintage that you get, the more that your stances are going to change week in and week out depending on how you feel. So when you're determining your squat stance width, especially when you are a vintage lifter, never stand up and look for your power position. Never unrack the bar and say, yeah, okay, there's my feet. That's where I'm strong. Unrack the bar, go down to the box, hit your depth, stay there. Find your power position on the box first. That's your power position. And then stand up, not the other way around. So that's the point where and if it's not feeling good and you know, hey, my stance needs to be right here, but it's not feeling great, spend the time to work on your hips, work on your back, work on your knees, work on your ankle. If it's not going to work out, find the stance where your body feels the best. And if that stance isn't working out, then today is the day to do a different exercise or to do a closed stance or to do a high box. Don't screw your body up. Those are serious life lessons right there. The difference between a box squat and a squat is normally about 2 inches per side. So if you see someone that, they're going from regular squats and you have them do a box squat, you pick your normal squat stance and then you go to doing box squats. In general, your stance should be about 2 inches wider each foot. And that doesn't normally become a problem until you have someone that's gotten used to, like me, that's learned how to box squat really, really efficiently. And then you remove the box, and then I try to squat with that same stance. Doesn't work. Doesn't work quite as well. So I have to bring my stance in about 2 inches on either side, and then that's the same feel as having that box there. Did I play basketball at college? No. Well, I did play basketball. I played basketball from age 4 till about 8 or 9. I wasn't great, but I was very lucky to be on the teams with some of the best players to ever come out of my county. That's pretty wild. But no, I wasn't good. I wasn't. Not that I wasn't good. I also played baseball, and I began martial arts at 7 or 8, and martial arts became the sport that I was 100% into. In college, we played on the intramural fraternity leagues. I was athletic, but no, I wasn't good. I know you're picking that up because I'm posting about basketball all the time. I love basketball. To be more specific, I love University of Kentucky basketball. And I live 7 time zones away from the University of Kentucky. I'm 7 time zones ahead. And I have not missed a game in at least 3 years. Maybe, I think 4 years ago, I missed a couple of games. But I am that guy. And this is before I could get anything on the computer. I used to be able to get it on my phone. Now they've blocked everything on phones. And then I went, I think 2 years. I went at least 2 years and listened to every game on the radio on my telephone. So I would be laying in bed. I went, a whole year without seeing any of the players. Had no idea what they looked like, but I knew the names, and I listened to every single game on the phone. And now, the last 2 years, I've watched every game live on my computer. I have had a few games where they're not starting till 5 o'clock in the morning my time, and I've worked already, and I've gone to bed just with my phone and my headphones in, and I've done the best I can. But I haven't missed a game in a couple years, and I bleed Kentucky blue. Absolutely love them. And if you've never seen a game, I encourage you to tune in and watch these. The guys playing this year, it's a great team. But more importantly than being a great team, they're a great group of kids. They talk, they're nice, they're polite. They give great interviews. Every single kid on the team is just the kind of kid I would love to go and talk to and just ask questions. They're the kind of people that you get some sort of connection just watching them do interviews. They make you smile. And that's win or lose. And you have to keep in mind that last year we had the worst season, and Kentucky basketball is the winningest basketball program in all of American college basketball ever. And last year we had the worst season we have ever had in our history. And some of those players, the players that came back this year, and they're having good years this year. It's amazing you get so proud because it was so bad last year. And I watched like 19 losing games last season. I think it was like 16 losing games. But to sit there and watch when your team is down by 20 points and to just, it's like, I'm watching because I love these guys. I'm watching because I'm a true fan of Kentucky basketball. Yes, I know that we're losing. I know that we're going to lose. I know the game's over, but I'm not giving up. And to see some of these kids who had such a rough time last year come back this year and improve so much and have great seasons, it lights me up inside. I really get excited. That's all I have from YouTube. Let me go over to Instagram. Tom, so you didn't know how to ask on YouTube. What's my thought of volume over weight for prep training? Here's a lot of arguments for volume over weight. Always looked at strength as being a skill, but many are saying that volume builds with less injuries. Yeah, I don't think you have to look at it as volume over weight. I know there's a point to where the two kind of intersect as to what you can recover from, but you have to figure out what you can recover from. What builds for you? Strength is obviously a skill. You should obviously always be working on your skill. But I think we know that, I talked about this earlier. Training at 90% or 100% is, especially at our age, is going to beat us up more than it's going to build us. So we have to look at that risk versus reward. You have to know what percent is going to build for you. You see me doing a lot of things with yoke and sled and farmers and Husafell stone with frame, car walk, with the sled behind me. I will say that I've had clients do this off and on for the last 5 to 7 years. And the clients in this last year that I had really focus on doing the yoke with a sled behind them. Both women won at World's Strongest Woman. They won their divisions in super yoke. I had a man win Strongman Nationals as well in yoke. And none of them are just, going into it were freaks at yoke. They were all worried about that event. Specifically worried about that. Could they even do that event? So not even once did we train the event at contest weight. And then we broke PRs on contest day, but we walked into contest day safely, which is huge. And we walked in with the muscles built in order to improve on that event. So it's a lot easier if you give me an idea of what events you're trying to improve at, but I would definitely say that don't train at max weight. Don't train at max weight. Anyone who has to train at contest weight has a mental issue with that, and you're not going to solve that. You're going to walk in and do the event at contest weight, and it's, that's the old style of training. This week heavy, next week heavier, next week heavier, next week heavier. Then, holy cow, I've got to deload or use a ton of ibuprofen because everything is hurting. And you didn't get any better in the process. You got better at beating yourself up, but that's it. You waste 4 to 5 weeks when you could have been building. So, it's not saying to drop down to 70 or 80% and do, 8 to 10 sets. But on something like the yoke, you can drop down to 80%. And you can put a semi-heavy sled behind you and go a contest distance with that. So the yoke's not, killing you. You want to build your Atlas Stone 1 rep max, training heavy stones. Obviously training heavy stones is going to be a part of it, but how often do you need to take a max stone to get better at max stones? Not freaking often if you know how to load stones. There's going to be lots of 5 sets of 5s and 3 sets of 3s. 70% for 3 sets of 3 on stones, and learning how to do it explosive to a higher platform is going to build a whole lot more than going out there and killing yourself and maxing all the time. That's a young man's game that's going to get better no matter what. That's a beginner's and a novice's theory to go out there and just go heavy. So I think it's not just, don't look at it as volume. Look at it as, I'm going to train a little bit less weight. I'm going to recover more. And I've got to focus on whatever muscles need to get stronger to make me better at that event. I hope that makes sense. Ask me next week about a specific event and I'll give you an idea. Over to Twitter. Matt Ball. How would I replace DE pressing if it was aggravating elbow tendonitis? Volume, technique. The first thing I would do, because I know that you're bench pressing, is I would switch from a bench press bar to a squat bar or an axle. That's the first thing I would do. I would go from bands to chains. I would go from mini bands to micro mini bands. I would drop the percent to 30%, 30, 35%. And I would drop the rest periods to 15 seconds. The idea of dynamic effort is you have to be doing something to make, that's going to make you faster, that forces you to try to be faster. And it has to be a good effort to it. So you can't get rid of the speed side, and you can't get rid of you can't make it easy. You could easily take something like a 6-board piece of soft foam. I really mean, I can send you a photo on Twitter tomorrow or the next day. But just a giant couch cushion that's, that thick. And and loosely duct tape it to your chest. So as you're pressing, it's catching the bar as you go down a little bit. So it's taking some pressure off. Graham Hicks does with the Hicks press, and he puts a giant piece of foam on his chest when he bench presses, and it makes his log press go up like crazy. And it's safe. So, I would switch to chains. You could definitely go to a shoulder saver. There's no definite set of this is how it has to be done. And I think people they think the West Side method, or that's the difference between conjugate and West Side, because West Side, they don't do what we read in books or what we read online, excuse me. They do whatever it freaking takes to make it work on the day. There is not one set formula. There are many set formulas, and they do whichever one it takes to make it work, as long as they stay within the compounds of this is going to make me faster without beating me up, and that could be different for everybody. That could be reverse mini band plus some chains. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be bands or chains at all, as long as it's forcing you to be fast. And if you're having a problem with a certain percent, drop 5% below that percent and do 5 or 6 more sets if that's what it takes. And if your method of training is beating you up, then deload the dynamic effort days for a month, for 6 weeks. Make it an incline, make it a decline. I've seen your gym take a 20 kilo plate and put it under the foot part of your bench to make your bench an ever so slight decline, and try that. Try half your sets of a decline like that and half of your dynamic effort sets with an incline like that. Take that 20 kilo plate and put it under the head as well. So it's just an ever so slight decline or incline, and see if that makes a difference. Switch to the axle over the bench press. That spreads out that whole pressure in your hand from a little bar like that to something much thicker. And that spreads out that pain, so it's not directly on that bicep tendon. It's kind of spread out much more in the hand. Giant hands here. Big as my head. I've got a big head. That's what I would do. Trying to figure out if it's just the eccentric phase that's aggravating it or concentrating on both. Try the foam pad as well. Try everything. Should you just limit the range of motion? Maybe. But I've found that as soon as I unrack it and get tight, you feel it in the bicep tendons. And then at that explosive point, even off a 2 board, if I'm firing off a hard board, there's a point to where it hurts and the point where it doesn't hurt, and you got to find that board. So sometimes that's where the Hicks press or the couch cushion press or something like that kind of allows you to kind of drop the bar and sink and explode into it. I've done dynamic effort with bands and chains and a catapult. And I really think that works. You have to have a general idea what you can press with the catapult, and you base your percentages off that. You don't base your percentages off your raw bench press. But that did absolutely wonders for taking the pressure and the pain. So I switched to an axle, I switched to chains, and I wore a catapult. And that allowed me to make some progress. And if nothing else, and you have no pain, and you're bored with your bench pressing, that also gives you another effective, 2 or 3 training blocks per year where you can do that, do something fun and effective at the same time. Maybe someone else can avoid that pain and have some fun. Well, guys, that is it. That's a 54-minute video. Finishing up at 3:33 in the morning. That'll give me just enough time to hit stop here and hit upload. So I hope that you can tell it's winter because I'm wearing a t-shirt. I am sweating and I do have food stains on my shirt. But I hope this helps. Hope this answers your questions. And then I'll be back next week, guys. So get your questions ready. I will try to post it up on Wednesday and answer again on Thursday night. Hope you have a great one. Talk to you soon.